content for it. That would be my thing. Yeah, there's a lot of games where I'm like, yeah, this you probably need to. That's what you got to do. But anyway, we're live with another episode of BS Busters, joined by
Joe Eli Moonstar, of course.
About Nietzsche and Windows 11 compatibility issues is an absolute mess.
Yeah. Yeah, you mean the Windows 11? You mean the Windows 11 compatibility where people got it and it's already fucking up people's PCs?
Yeah.
People who can get it.
I downloaded it. I put it
like me and Red said white.
I downloaded it. I put it on a virtual machine.
Well, they offered it to me, and I was like, nah, I'm good. Because I remember... No, go ahead, Kenoshi.
Yeah, I mean, if you're curious about Windows 11, I would say either put it on a virtual machine with some kind of pass-through, but other than that, I wouldn't recommend downloading this.
Or an old laptop that you don't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
That you don't give a fuck about, you don't really game on, you just want to test it out. Like, once again, Windows, like, I've noticed this about Microsoft. Once they get a build of Windows that is, like, hit its sweet spot for stability and usage, and there being enough applications, like third-party applications that you can download to make it comfortable for you to use, they immediately drop that build and move on and announce their next thing. And I'm like, why don't you guys do what you did with XP and get it to stability and then support the shit for like 5 years afterwards so that people can switch over when the fuck they want to and not like force people into it. But, you know, that's just me.
One operating system I would, if you're curious, is if you want the freedom of Windows and the cleanness of a Mac, then just go with Linux.
Yeah, but you need a specific distribution of Linux, like something like Kubuntu or something like that. Because if you tell someone get Linux and they don't know what the fuck they're getting into, you can go with the version of Linux where you have to understand coding in order to use the shit, and you know that's not good for people who don't know coding or want to know coding. So you know, if you're not into coding, I would say, do whatever you wish, but but that's neither here nor there. It's me, Mr. Red Fox. So here's what we have on the roster for tonight's cast. We have 5 topics. What we're doing for 4th of July preparation. What are we cooking? How are we cooking it? Etc. Etc. More scam consoles. Now, I've been following, for those who don't know, I've been following the Intellivision Amico for a while now.
Oh, no.
Now, I put a whole bunch of information in the chat section, and I've seen all of it. It's best encapsulated by the Pat and Ian podcast with Pat Contry and Ian Ferguson on YouTube, where they've been going back and forth with Tommy Tallarico, who is the CEO of the Intellivision Amico. And it's just bad. There's a spec drop from a quote-unquote insider for the Intellivision Amico, and basically this new Intellivision console is essentially using a chipset from a $100 smartphone from 2016, which just lets you know that this is really fucking cheap.
Is it as bad as those many in one console games?
It's not that bad, but it's really fucking cheap.
Ow.
Like, let me put it this way. This chipset is so cheap and so underpowered that even if you got a budget smartphone now, like one that, like, with a contract you probably pay like $50 for, it would still be better than what this shit is running this shit right here. It's very bad. But on top of that, we're also going to cover what would be our ideal single-player RPG. I guess the best examples of a single-player RPG would be something like Skyrim or Fallout. A game where you don't really have a party, you're just by yourself. I guess the original single-player RPG would be something like Dragon Quest. The original Dragon Quest. The one where you didn't have a party and you're just one dude fight your way around an island.
You have only one save point in the entire beeping game.
I think it was that way in the NES game. I think in the Game Boy Color and SNES game, you could save at churches that were found in other towns, but like you'd find clerics that you could talk to that you could save with, but that was kind of iffy. Casey Hudson has returned from the dead with a new studio. The Magic Online game has been shuttered. Apparently it had
Oh boy, that's gonna be one for me for sure.
It had very aggressive microtransactions. I mean, really aggressive. Like bend over, let me pull your wallet from out of your asshole aggressive. Allegedly. I never played it. I try not to play online card games these days, if I can, because...
Yeah, this is one of those times I could really go ham on this kind of topic.
Yeah. So with that being said, and plus whatever free topics people might want to come up with, I guess we can also bring up Ernie Gygax's controversial statements and the tabletop gaming community's response, because apparently, Ernie Gygax just,
Isn't that the person from TSR?
Well, the new TSR. He's not really... TSR is defunct. TSR doesn't really... TSR, as you and I know TSR from back in the day, doesn't exist anymore.
I was wondering... I thought that TSR was still going, but it had new leadership.
No. There is another TSR that basically is by a guy who was a fan of the original TSR, who essentially... Like, all they do is produce, like, a magazine for fans of tabletop gaming, which is good. It gets the information out. Then there's a new TSR that has Ernie Gygax and some other people involved with it. And Ernie Gygax said some really stupid shit and doubled down on it. And, just not smart things to do in today's day and age. But...
He likely got roasted.
It gets pretty bad. But anyway, with that being said, I guess we can get started with the first story, which is 4th of July. So, what are you guys cooking? What are you guys making? What's your prep? What you guys doing for the 4th?
Well, I gotta hold off on my 4th of July celebration. Somebody's birthday's tomorrow.
Oh, really?
I'll be working on the 4th of July. So
that sucks for you, man. Well, I am not working on the 4th. Everyone's off on the 4th for me, so.
Yeah, especially since it's a Saturday of all.
The 4th is on a Sunday.
I mean, it's a Sunday of all days. All days. I almost goofed up on that. Thank you.
So we got a whole weekend.
Yeah. So if anything, I usually would try to help with preparations for cooking. Basically, I'm usually making the seasoned potato slices and making banana pudding.
Is this Southern banana pudding or the icebox banana pudding, where it's like more like what you'd find at a buffet banana pudding?
I usually make it with. I usually have the milk, the bananas, the vanilla pudding, mix it all together, and be sure it's put in the fridge for at least a day.
So it's more of the icebox style banana pudding. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like both. I like the Southern style where it's cooked, and I also like the icebox style where it's made in the icebox. Icebox style is really good if you're gonna eat it later on, because you can eat a little bit and then just put it back in the refrigerator. The Southern style where it's cooked is great the day it's made. After that, you can't really reheat it, because then you just wind up with cooked bananas, which just tastes terrible.
Yeah, that's the reason why we usually go with the icebox variant.
Yeah, the southern style is really good if you have a lot of people coming over and it's going to be eaten the same day it's made. It's great if it's eaten the same day it's made. But getting it to that point where everything is eaten the same day it's made is a motherfucker. I'm not going to lie.
Unless you bring it to a party.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. You got to have a lot of people there eating on that, because if a lot of people aren't there eating on it, it's just like, God, I'm tired of looking at this. Well, I mean, you can eat it the day of, but then, I mean, after that, it's just going to be sitting there. For my 4th, I'm doing Ben's Chili Bowl, half smokes. I'm doing, what else? I'm doing chili. I'm doing a rack of ribs. The half smokes, I'm cooking like half of them, because in a package you get 10. I'm cooking 5 of them, and then I'm gonna keep maybe 2, and then, drop the other ones off at my mom's house or something, because I'm not cooking at her house, because some of the years I'll go to her house and cook stuff for 4th of July. Other years I'll have guests come to my house and have a cookout or whatever. But this year I'm barbecuing, but I'm barbecuing alone by myself, and I'm okay with that. Me and the dog. Rack of ribs. Oh, and I'm smoking a brisket. The brisket I'm not sharing. The brisket is I'm smoking it for the 4th, and I'm not eating the whole brisket. I'm keeping it because you can do so many things with a brisket. So many things you can do with a brisket. You can add it to collard greens. You can slice it thin and put it on a sandwich. Yeah.
I was gonna say there's so many ways to have it. You be it with or without certain breads, and oh boy, you're gonna get me hungry now.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to a barbecue and someone manages to make a good, here's the thing. If you go to a barbecue, and I didn't say a cookout, because barbecue is different from a cookout or grilling, okay? They're completely different experiences, okay? A cookout, someone got some hot dogs and some hamburgers on a grill. Same thing with grilling, okay? Grilling is a step up from a cookout. Grilling is, they might throw a chicken thigh, maybe some legs, maybe a breast on the grill, and hot dogs and hamburgers. Barbecue takes time, okay? It is a labor-intensive experience.
As I said, it takes hours to make something.
Yeah. Like, if you're doing ribs on the grill properly, it's going to take at least 2-3 hours just for the ribs. It's a pain in the ass, but what you wind up with is savory meat, properly cooked.
And that's before adding anything else like barbecue sauce.
Well, I used to be a big sauce person. I'll be honest with you. I used to be a big sauce person.
Before sauce, but yeah.
Yeah, I used to.
If anything, I know sauces varied from person to person.
Well, no, the reason I used to be a sauce person is because when you're a kid, a lot of the sauces are ketchup based, and ketchup has sugar, and sugar, when you're a kid, sugar is just great. Now that I'm older and I've gotten better at making barbecue and stuff like that, I realized that some barbecue sauce is important. But a lot of barbecue places you go to, the reason they put sauce on their barbecue is because the barbecue isn't very good, and the sauce covers up a myriad of sins. Really good barbecue, like really good ribs, the only seasoning you need is the rub that you put on the meat and the smoke that comes from the wood that you use in order to smoke the meat while you're barbecuing it.
I get you there.
Now, sauce is an extra.
Sauces varies from person to person.
Sauce is an extra, but really good ribs, if you cut a single rib and it has no sauce on it, and you take a bite, the seasoning from the rub and the smoke and the heat, that within itself, that rib should be great without any sauce. The sauce that you put on it is going to just enhance the flavor of everything else. But if you have mediocre ribs and you put a really good sauce on it, they can make a really good sauce can take mediocre barbecue and kick it up a notch or two. I've noticed just from eating tons and tons of barbecue in my life, and having relatives that cooked tons and tons of barbecue in their lives. Because if you're black in the South, anytime there's barbecuing going on, you're always going to have a ring of black dudes sitting around the grill with beers in their hands, looking at the meat, talking shit. And here's the thing. They aren't even talking about women or sports. They're talking about the food. Hey, man, yeah, that looks like... You need to turn that over. I'm like...
I would say, when you hear trash talk about cooking, that their competition is going to be flavored.
Well, then, the thing that gets me when I barbecued with people is there's always someone who is running... There's always someone up there... Who's running their mouth and didn't bring shit. Like, it didn't bring shit like, hey, man. Or, like, here are the three people I never want to see at a barbecue. The person who's up there running their mouth about how they want things cooked and didn't bring shit. Fuck you. Okay? You didn't bring bread, napkins, ice, beer, chips, dip, a salad, nothing. And yet you have all of these serving suggestions on how things should be prepared. Fuck you. The other person I hate are people who go up there and tell people what they won't eat. I don't eat this. I don't eat that. I don't eat this.
Say, which is worse?
Go somewhere else. Well,
I have a punchline for this.
Bring stuffing or the picky eater?
The person who is always the pickiest, I don't eat this, I don't eat that, also happens to be the person who is borderline morbidly obese. I'm like, look, first of all, you lying. You eat everything you can catch up with, you fat motherfucker. Because I can look at you. Look, you don't get to be that size with that picky of a diet. Okay? You fat bastard. And lastly, the person that I really can't stand at a cookout is the person who brought something, but they brought the cheapest fucking thing you could bring. But then when it comes time to serve the food, they get the most expensive shit on the grill, like the most expensive meat. So if you brought ribs, they make sure to get half a rack of ribs. They make sure to get, you brought brisket, oh, they getting the brisket. Someone brought steaks, oh, they getting some of that steak. It's like, god damn, you motherfucker. Now,
I was about to say, I thought the worst was the one that brought nothing.
The one who brought, well, it depends, because if the one who brought nothing is a college student, because as a college student, you're broke. You don't have anything. And even if you do have something, your money has places to go. But here's the thing. There's always something you could bring, even if you're broke. Like, you could bring a bag of chips. You could bring some ice. Ice is cheap, but people always need ice at a cookout. Because people...
For the drinks, of course.
For the drinks, or, whatever. Hell, you could even bring a case of sodas. And they don't even have to be high quality sodas. They could be some cheap shit that's mostly water. That's mostly like carbonation. And get flat after like 2 minutes, like some Sam's Club shit. That's okay. But yeah, Sam's Club, anything that says Sam's Club has the cheapest sodas I've ever had before in my life. Every Sam's Club cola I've ever had, if you open it and leave it open for a little bit of time, what happens is that it goes flat in like a little under 5 minutes. Like, don't walk away from your Sam's Club soda and be like, okay, I took a sip and walk away from it, or cover it up and put it in your refrigerator. The shit will be flat in 5 minutes every time. That's how you know you got a cheap soda. How quickly it goes flat. Like Coke, even though people like to talk shit about Coke, if you open up a Coke, okay, like a plastic bottle of Coke, and you cover it back up and put it in the refrigerator and get it cold, it will be generally still effervescent and carbonated when you come back to it. Even a day later, even 2 days later, there's still some carbonation. Sam's Club, shit. You open that stuff up, come back, it's flat as a tire. Like, psh. Oh, this is just flavored soda water. This is great. Anyway, so yeah, 4th of July, I'm doing half smokes. Meat-wise, I'm doing half smokes, rack of ribs, and I'm smoking a brisket. I'm going to start smoking the brisket, like, Saturday night, like 10, 11 o'clock at night.
I was about to say, after the podcast.
Yeah, but later than that. It's going to be like 10, 11, because in order to smoke a brisket, I've got like a 10-pound brisket, and you're looking at like an hour per pound.
Yeah, that's half a day.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it at 10 at night, because by the time it's done, it'll be 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, the thing is, I have a smoker, so all I have to do is just get it started and just leave it alone. That's it. I don't have to do anything, because I have enough wood. I have an automatic hopper that feeds my smoker, so I don't have to sit there and just constantly be watching the shit. But anyway, enough of that. So, any other things you guys want to talk about 4th of July, food wise or beverage wise, before we move on to the next topic, which is scam consoles galore?
Just one thing. I was gonna say, I'm usually trying to figure out if to mix drink types together, like soda and juices. Should I get some of that ready for Saturday? Ready Saturday for Sunday?
It depends on how you mix your stuff. If you're talking about like mixers, if it's carbonated, no. But if you're mixing juices, you want to you probably want to prep your juices beforehand. Like if you're doing like old style bar style mixes, like a cordials, you'll want to do that the day before and put it in the refrigerator and get it cold.
Gotcha.
As cold as you possibly can.
I usually have a freezer for something like that, so that'll work.
Well, I mean, if your cordials are mostly sugar, like really, like almost like a syrup, then they won't freeze in the freezer because the point of
freezing is a lot higher for certain things, right?
Yeah, it's lower for a highly saturated sugar solution. So, like, your freezer's not going to get cold enough to freeze it. It's just going to get really cold, which is nice because if you're mixing drinks, having your stuff be real cold is like I keep my case in point. I keep my vodka in my refrigerator when I'm mixing drinks. Why? Because the colder it is, the better your cocktail is going to be. Because you don't want,
flat drinks.
Well, I've been really into because we're going through a heat wave in the U.S. I've been, when I'm on my deck, I've been into drinking gin sodas. So I'll take a splash of gin, ice on the rocks, and then I'll hit it with a splash of like some type of citrus, lime or lemon juice, freshly squeezed, and then I'll hit it with a splash of some type of carbonated soda. I don't use club soda with quinine in it because I don't like the bitterness of quinine infused tonics. I just get carbonated soda water, and that's really good. Like gin sodas are it's like a soda for adults, except the flavor comes from the gin and the citrus and and that's it. And it's very low calorie. And it's not really going to get you fucked up, but it's very refreshing. And you drink 2 or 3 of those, you're going to be fine for the rest of the for the next 2 or 3 hours. And when it's hot, it's really refreshing. But yeah, that's. You have anything you want to add about the fourth Kenoshi before we move on to the next?
What's your guys' favorite summer dessert?
Oh God.
That's a tricky one, but for me, I'm usually an ice cream person.
Yeah, I'm a sorbet man.
Yeah,
Love me some sorbet.
What's sorbet exactly?
Figure it's a flavored
ice cream.
Well, I'm being bourgeois when I say it. Most people call it sherbet. Sherbet.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
But I'm being bourgeois when I say it because it's sorbet, sherbet. It's the same thing. I like that shit. I like sorbet or sherbet because basically you can you can eat it like ice cream, like in a bowl or a small bowl or whatever. But my favorite thing with sorbet is to take 2 scoops and then splash on some really kind of dry, high quality ginger ale, and then drink it like a float. That's good. Like get a good high quality sherbet.
What flavor? What flavor sorbet?
Oh God, I love the fruit flavors. So like lime sorbet, lemon sorbet, mango sorbet. Oh, I love mango sorbet. Raspberry sorbet.
Oh, you are a pineapple personally.
Pineapple. I like pineapple in a lot of things, not sorbet. But I love mango sorbet. I make mango sorbet at home. Like I get mangoes when they're ripe, and I let them ripen a little bit more, and then I basically peel the mango, and then I puree it and run it through a fine mesh sieve to get any fiber parts of it. And then I hit it with a splash of lime juice, like fresh squeezed lime or lemon juice, and then I add a basic simple syrup mixed with honey. When I make a simple syrup, I don't use straight up simple syrup. I like to add honey and a little bit of lemon juice to it to add some flavor to my simple syrups. And then I use that to make my sorbet, my own homemade sorbet. And let me tell you something, man. It's very good. It's very, very good. The only thing is that like when I make my own ice cream, it's a little like any type of like frozen dessert. When you make your own homemade stuff, it's very rich because I don't use a lot of artificial ingredients that you'd find on the back of the package. So a little bit goes a long way. Like when you're a kid and because cheap ice cream has a lot of air whipped into it to make it seem like there's a lot in the package when it really isn't. Homemade ice cream, you don't have to do all that. So like everything you put in there is in there. So it's got more fat in it, it's got more sugar, got more eggs. But that's my favorite. I love that shit. It's great. But that's just me. Okay, I guess we can move on to the next topic. The next topic is, for those of you who may or may not know, the Intellivision Amico, fronted by Tommy Tallarico. For those of you who don't know, Tommy Tallarico is the guy who did the, he's basically a video game composer. Like, he did the music for Aladdin and Earthworm Jim and shit like that. And basically, I mean, he's now the front man for this console that was supposed to come out 2 years ago and kept on getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I mean, there's just a lot of real scammy shit going on.
Not to the degree of those multi games and one consoles, but
no, this is on the level of the Atari VCS and the Coleco Chameleon, shit like that. This is on the level of the Ouya in terms of scamminess.
Ooh.
Yeah. It is very scammy though. So, what are your guys' thoughts on these scam consoles that people keep on trying to make?
Kind of
People are
wince
broke and
every
they
time
want,
I
and they
hear
want a quick
about it.
buck.
What?
People are broke and they want a quick buck.
Well, I mean, I don't think Tommy Tallarico's broke. I definitely think that
This is not the Soldier Boy console, mind you. Oh boy.
I mean, it's not that bad, but I think the issue with the Intellivision with the Intellivision is that it just kind of it's just a lot of continuous
Promises.
well, the thing is what, like, okay, what they're promising versus what they can deliver are two completely different things. Like this guy, like every time they show footage of this console, which is using, every time they show footage of this console, and it supposedly is using real hardware to play the games, but everyone's using smartphones instead of the actual controllers. The games were supposed to initially cost like $3.99. Now they range between $8.99 and $12.99. The specs for these games, like I said earlier before we went on air. Basically, this console, and I'm not on video, but when I say console, I'm using air quotes. The console is in fact, how can I put this? The console is using a chipset from 2016 that was a budget chipset in 2016. Okay?
Yeah. That's pretty bad.
Like, let me put it this way. A $100 unlocked smartphone using this chipset from 2016 would have been underpowered in 2016.
Oh, wow.
Okay? It would have been like if you had some elderly parents who you wanted to give them a smartphone so they can make phone calls and maybe check Facebook and shit, but anything that required any type of like actual processing power for gaming, your parents were gonna be your elderly parents or grandparents were gonna be they were gonna be shit out of luck. This is what's powering this console. So essentially, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty goddamn bad. And the real, like, none of this would matter if every time there was a complaint or relevant and reasonable criticism about these red flags, the fanboys in the Amico community start attacking people who talk about it. Matter of fact, the website that did the hardware, the console hardware specs, basically got hit with a DMCA by Tommy Tallarico, the CEO of the Intellivision Amico.
Oh,
They-
God.
I mean, and here's the thing. Anytime you see shit like that, that is a major red flag for any of these micro consoles, someone trying to get something out. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. There have been spec leaks for every console since the N64. The PS1 had spec leaks. The N64, the Saturn, the Dreamcast, the PS2, the original Xbox. And no one said shit. I mean, there were spec leaks for the PS5, the Xbox Series X, the Switch. No one ever said shit, okay? And here's the thing. These companies have a hell of a lot more to lose by their console specs being leaked than the Amico. You get what I'm saying? So it just seems a bit suspect to me, but That's my own personal opinion. What do you guys think about it?
Oh boy, this is gonna be one of those console messes.
It's
Ladies
a
and gentlemen, boys and
mess.
girls of all ages, get ready for a lot more headaches. I
Oh,
can
it's
hear it.
oh, it's gonna get worse. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I like seeing train wrecks in the video game industry just because it's interesting to me. Like some people get mad, but I like seeing train wrecks. I'm like, yeah, this is great.
For me, it depends on who's doing it. If it's some kind of rear end, it's good to watch because it's karmic payback.
No, I like seeing train wrecks because maybe someone will learn from it and not repeat those same mistakes. But that's my own personal opinion. Anyway, so yeah, the Intellivision Amico. I'm not going to go into it, but if you guys are interested, go watch Pat the NES Punk, the Intellivision Amico. You can just say Pat the NES Punk Intellivision Amico. You can go look the shit up. It is pretty damning. That's all I'm going to say on it. But that's my own personal opinion. That's just how I feel. Anyway, let's move on to something a bit lighthearted. What would be your ideal single-player RPG? Like, what mechanics would you like to see in it? Would you like to throw a curveball and do something a little bit different from the typical thing that people do? Like, who wants to dive into this first?
This is probably the one person that's out of the loop a little because the only one I actually tried out in a sense to see how that works would be either. Actually, I got two games that I tried that feel that way. Dragon Quest 1, the very first one, and The Keep.
The Keep. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a first person RPG of sorts that you have to go through the dungeon, trying to evade traps, trigger traps to do combat, and basically work your way through the maze like a single player D&D character.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Though it kind of flows into the oldest RPG tone like you would see in the old SNES era RPGs.
Like wizardry and
yeah,
stuff like that. Games that are oppressively difficult for no goddamn reason. It's like, why is this hard? This doesn't need to be this hard.
Basically because you're looking at it from a limited perspective, and two, well,
you're by yourself. You have no help. You just gotta whatever you can scrounge up. Yeah, I hate games like that. At least games that kind of don't really do that. I guess for me, I would like to see.
I think the only reprieve I actually got in The Keep for that would be that HP slowly recovers. 1 every 1 every 20 steps.
That sounds like a load of bullshit.
Yeah, 1 every 20 steps.
That does not sound interesting or useful. For me, I've always having played games like Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. I personally and Fallout, even like the original Fallout was kind of a single player game. Yeah, you could get party members, but if you died, the whole game was over. So for me, I would like to see an RPG, a single player RPG where that isn't based upon like job classes or skill sets based around job classes. I think it would be cool that for once to have a single player RPG where essentially, like, okay, you want to play as a melee sword and board, sword and shield type of character. Well, you can't like choose a class type or job class. You literally have to go and pick up a sword and a shield and start training with that. Maybe you could have in the beginning of the game, like they ask you a series of questions that might give you like an edge with your character's backstory or history. Like, okay, you are a soldier who was who made it up to like who got promoted twice. So you have some melee skills. You probably can already kind of fight with a sword and shield, but it's like if you want to get really good at it, you have to spend some time and energy, putting in the work. I prefer that in games. Like I get tired of the typical, well, you chose this class, you're stuck with it. Ha ha ha. And then they punish you when you want to try something different. It's like, well, if you want to be a magic user, you built your character up poorly, so you're pretty much shit out of luck. But also I don't like games that try and make you almighty and give you access to everything. Because then
I was about to say, wouldn't that be Skyrim?
I mean, that's a lot of games. Cyberpunk does it. Cyberpunk 2077, where you're basically all powerful. Like you've got access to everything. Like you can do everything. I don't like that in games.
Yeah. Yeah, and the worst offender I think would be Fallout 4.
I mean, I don't think Fallout 4 is the worst. I think Skyrim's worse than Fallout 4. Fallout 4 has a lot of problems. Fallout 4 has really bad character progression in terms of like powering yourself up. And
you said that Skyrim's worse than Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how does something from the future that has bad story be something that caused so many memes?
How is it worse than? Okay. Why is Fallout 4 worse than Skyrim? I mean, how is Skyrim worse than Fallout 4?
Yeah.
Okay, Skyrim is worse than Fallout 4 as a single-player RPG because Skyrim, literally, you're an all-powerful character, and essentially speaking, like, things that don't make sense logically, you're able to do, but of course you are, due to lousy writing. Like, for example, you do a Mage Guild quest in Skyrim, and you become the Archmage. But here's the thing, if you build your character so that you aren't a magic user, you could potentially be a character who has shitty or very little magic skills, and somehow you are now the Archmage of a school of magic. Does that make any fucking sense?
Only after one day, or even less than that, and you're an Archmage.
Well, it's not over the course of one day. It's like multiple days. But still, you do the quest chain, you wind up becoming Archmage. That makes no fucking sense, especially if you can be a character who potentially has no magic skills. You get what I'm saying? Like that, just in terms of the logic of the world that it's happening in, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm sorry, I almost 404'd. Did I hear what you said right?
Yeah.
That somebody that is magic inept can be an Archmage.
That is true. Conversely, you could be a character who sucks at melee combat and is not a warrior, who specializes in magic, join the circle, the companions, which is the Skyrim's equivalent of the Fighters Guild, become the leader of the Fighters Guild with no fighting skills and just focus on using magic. That's how fucking broken Skyrim is as a game.
Here I thought power armor get so early in the game would be broken. Oh God.
Yeah, that's pretty broken. That is Fallout, and that's because of lazy writing. Just really fucking lazy writing. It's pretty bad.
I was about to say, both of them have bad writing in them. I can already tell you that.
Well, the guy who's the main writer for Skyrim is also the guy who's the main writer for Fallout 4. The problem is that Skyrim, you're mostly a silent... Skyrim is worse because it doesn't even follow its own logic. Fallout 4, by and large, does follow some form of its own logic. The problem with Fallout 4 is that its own logic basically sucks. The main story for Fallout 4 is, I mean, I've said this before, the main story for Fallout 4 is that you play a guy whose kid was kidnapped, and you were cryogenically frozen. You woke up out of the cryogenic stasis when they kidnapped your kid.
Your son kidnapped.
And then you were cryogenically frozen again. And when you wake up out of your cryogenic stasis, your first instinct is, they killed my wife, or if you're playing as the male character, they kill your wife. If you're playing as the female character, they kill your husband and take your kid. Now you gotta find your kid. The problem, and this is where the hook of the game comes in, is that immediately after you see your kid taken and you're frozen, you go back into cryogenic stasis. So, essentially speaking, the whole twist... Yeah, the whole twist of the game is that you were frozen long for a while after your kid was stolen. Approximately around, I want to say...
15 years.
No, longer than that, like 50 years.
Dang.
So, essentially speaking, in the game, it's between 40 to 50 years. So, essentially, in the game, when you eventually find your son, Sean is 70 some odd years old. He's an old man. And it's just, the game is just really poorly... it's just really badly made. They got lazy. The story... And not only that, Skyrim doesn't tell you a story. Skyrim basically gives you a series of side quests and rewards for doing those side quests. Fallout has a very particular story they want to tell you. You have a voice protagonist who only has 2 types of responses: positive, negative, and sarcastic.
I was about to say, isn't that 3 flavors?
Well, sarcastic good, sarcastic bad. I mean, you know, the whole point of a single-player RPG is that you make the choices you want to make, and that's it.
And all of them are various flavors of vanilla.
Yeah.
And sadly, it's not the good kind of vanilla either. Come on.
I mean, vanilla in general is just it's vanilla. There's a reason it's synonymous with boring and not very exciting. You know.
Yeah, but I was saying that even vanilla could be a little bit better than nothing. But if it's vanilla that tastes bad, I feel sorry for you.
Vanilla is exciting, but if you had to eat vanilla every day for a month, you would get tired of vanilla pretty quick. So anyway, yeah, for me, I just personally think that my ideal single-player game would basically embrace player choice and actually, you'd actually have to make choices. You know, do you want to be, if you want to, you could be an almighty character and have multiple skill sets, but it would take you longer to level those skill sets up. So you'd have to make a choice. It's okay, do I want to be a really great, melee character, or do I want to be kind of good at, if I want to be decent at this and decent at another thing? Or if you want to be really good at both, it's going to just take you longer to level those up.
It'll take the dedication, but at least it'll work. Too bad that none of the other parts are going to be flowing with it.
But that's just me. With that being said, I guess we can move on to the next topic. Kenoshi, you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. Okay.
Next up on the flavors list.
Yeah, from there we've got the return of Casey Hudson. That's right, Casey Hudson. Casey Hudson, who, I mean, whatever you think about Casey Hudson, the man looks like a character from a video game. I have never seen someone who allegedly works so hard as Casey Hudson, who looks like they belong in a PS4 or PS5 video game. Movie video game, yeah. So basically, as we all know, Casey Hudson, who was the general manager of BioWare, he was the general manager as he steered them into the dumpster fire that was Anthem. Has created a new studio called Humanoid Studios, a new outfit that promises to combine, and I'm using air quotes here, excellence in arts with the advanced sciences to deliver the future of interactive entertainment, end quote. Today, we are announcing a new independent video game company built to unleash the creative freedom of developers, bringing innovation and artistry to players through an all-new IP. Hudson tweeted, "We are Humanoid Studios. This is the first tiny step in our journey, and we hope you'll come along with us on the adventure." I mean, Casey Hudson is really good at marketing himself, but Jesus fucking Christ, that tells you absolutely nothing.
It just sounds like some pretentious nonsense.
Well, Casey Hudson is a pretentious jackass. I mean, and he does have some cachet to he does have some street cred to be pretentious. I mean, this is the man who helped bring out Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age. Well, Dragon Age 2 sucked. As a matter of fact, you know, like he was there when they were working on, you know, KOTOR, Jade Empire, you know. So he does have some, you know, some cash to be like, yeah, I've helped make some great shit. But the problem is that he was part of a team making great shit. He's never been the one in charge and been in charge of making something great by itself.
He's never been the lead?
Well, nothing that he was the sole guy on has ever been really successful that we know of. Like I said, when he was in charge of BioWare, they came out with Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda. So that's not what I would call a ringing endorsement. That's not a ringing endorsement. Let me put it that way. Suffice it to say, like no one's like, yeah, man, because when you think quality, you think Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem. Like Anthem was so bad that EA was like, this can't be saved, let's cut it, and they did. You know, and Anthem was that game that all those EA fanboys were like, no man, this is gonna bring Mass Effect back. I'm like, come on, man. You know good and hell well this is not gonna bring Mass Effect back. Mass Effect is dead. I mean, BioWare is dead. It's not coming back. They aren't making any, you know. At least I'm not really, you know. And I don't think Human Studios is going to do all that well either. I mean, look at this shit. Look. You can't see it, but humanoidstudios.com is also devoid of detail. The job listings for posts include senior gameplay programmer, senior creative director, and senior level designer. Those don't shed much light either. Applicants are required to have experience developing AAA games, ideally with the Unreal Engine. But the game itself is described in only the vaguest possible terms as an immersive new universe of story, character, and discovery. That literally tells you nothing. That's like someone telling you, yes, I have an idea for a new game. What's the game? What is the game? It's going to be the bestest game ever. That tells me absolutely nothing. Could you be more descriptive? No, I cannot.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
So forgive me if I'm not exactly all a quiver.
Enthusiastic.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If you know, here's the thing. There's some cases where someone comes up with some new shit and it's exciting, like Playtonic, right? Playtonic came out, and their first game, the original Ukulele, to some people is kind of rough, but there was something there. Then they made a sequel to Ukulele, and that game's fucking awesome. And I'm hoping that their next game's going to be good. But for every Playtonic where you have like legendary developers, you get shit like the Yuji Naka Balin's Underworld shit, or you get what's his name? Jesus.
Take your time, because I think this is a little tricky for you.
I'm trying to. You get Peter Molyneux, where after he leaves Microsoft, he made that game where it's like, well, someone's gonna break this thing open, and then something's going to happen. I'm like, you can't even explain what the shit's going on, Peter. What the fuck's going on, man?
What was in the box anyway?
I don't know. I think at some point they were like, eventually they just wound up like giving people some type of like, you got to tour the office, and you got like assigned some type of MacGuffin, I guess. I don't know. My point being is this. Okay, here's my point. My point is that ultimately, when people come back, it's very difficult for them to, it's very difficult for people to come back together. You know what I'm saying? Like, when someone leaves a huge studio or publisher, it's very hard for those people, especially a studio. It's very hard for those people to come back into the video game industry because they don't have access to the resources they had access to. Like, it says here that during his time at BioWare, Casey Hudson was the project director on the Mass Effect trilogy, and prior to that, he was a designer and producer on Knights of the Old Republic, and a programmer on Baldur's Gate 2. So that's not a thin resume, A lot of people really like the Mass Effect trilogy. I mean, I personally like the first two games. I don't like the third game. I like the original KOTOR. I think KOTOR 2 is a better game on a technical level. And Baldur's Gate 2, most people will tell you Baldur's Gate 1 is kind of meh. Baldur's Gate 2 is when it starts to get really good. So, to each his own. But,
yeah.
I mean, like, I don't want to, look, I want to see the dude do well, but he does not have a great track record over the last 10, 15 years. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? He is not firing on all cylinders, bro. But, let's keep it moving. Next, we have the shuttering of Magic Online. Magic Legends. Magic Legends was a multiplayer action RPG, and the people who spent money on the multiplayer action RPG will receive a full refund, its developer says. It's shutting down in October. So basically, it doesn't say when it was started, when it went online, but basically, it was a Magic the Gathering RPG, which seems like it should be a slam dunk, really. A Magic the Gathering RPG. Because Magic the Gathering, to me, was always like, oh, this is kind of cool. I wish there was a single-player game that kind of eased you into the lore, because there's so much other shit going on in Magic the Gathering. Well, unfortunately, they didn't think about that. They basically turned it into a microtransaction, poor performance, production quality, design, defunct cesspool. And apparently, it was not really, it wasn't really working out. Sean Day 9 Plot, who was a major face in the Magic scene, was particularly critical of Magic Legends' approach to the action RPG genre when the beta launched. It's not that the game lacks interesting decisions, it just lacks decisions, he said at the time. I hit my buttons on cooldown, I do not manage mana. There was no point in the first 3 hours that I managed mana, period. I really think that the current implementation of the deck and how that works in combat feels like an anti-system. It feels like it hurts the gameplay rather than creating something new and cool and fun. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy, I could easily roast that game for hours. I mean, seriously, it did. The only thing that I felt that it was able to do was filter money.
Well, I think it was a good idea. It was just badly implemented, much like anything else. Like the thing is this: a lot of these are good ideas. Making a Magic the Gathering action RPG. Like, if there ever was a setting, like, if there's 2 Wizard of the Coast properties that definitely should be turned into action RPGs, it's D&D and Magic the Gathering. It's like just begging for you to make an action RPG. But, if you're going to do it well. Don't just, throw some shit together. Which is what they did. So, it fell apart. That's all I could say. Speaking of Wizards of the Coast and TSR, Wizard of the Coast properties and D&D, Ernie Gygax. Ernie Gygax. First of all, if your name... I know he's really Ernie Gary Gygax Jr. Apparently that was Gary Gygax's full name. Good thing he switched over to Gary instead of Ernest. But, because I can't take anyone seriously named Ernest. Even though their very name means to be serious. But Ernie Gygax, essentially speaking... said some pretty controversial things, and essentially has kicked off a shitstorm of his ass being banned from the convention circuit for D&D. So,
which you have to admit is both impressive and sad.
What, impressive that he said some controversial shit, or sad that he got banned?
No, it's sad that he had to say some controversial stuff, because if anything, nobody knew about him until he spoke up.
Well, I mean, I had heard about Ernie Gygax.
What did he say?
Well, essentially, he essentially said that because Wizard of the Coast has been, since they bought D&D, has basically slowly but surely been making D&D more mainstream. Which, whether you like Wizard of the Coast or not, as a business model, taking D&D, which used to be a boys' club, and making it more open and bringing, different people from different walks of life into it, has turned it from those nerds in the back of the library with binders, and they're trying to make it more mainstream, which is a good thing. And he's like, well, for those people who feel like they've been outclassed and don't like the politically correct culture of D&D, we're here for you. And he said it not in a way that was like joking or, for people who feel like D&D left them behind. Like, he said it in kind of a mean-mannered, like,
a-hole-ish way.
Yeah, as in saying that having a politically correct D&D and D&D that's trying to be more inclusive now is a bad thing. And, when he clarified that that's what he was saying, people called him out on it, and he doubled down on it, so that, well, fine then, don't be here. And I know some people are defending Ernie Gygax and acting like it's a bad thing, but here's the thing. D&D, when it first came out, was starting to get really popular. And then fucking Squares were like, this is some satanic shit. And it got banned in a lot of places. And then on top of that, the only people who played it, like, after that is, you know, stereotyped as playing it were nerds. Oh, you're a fucking nerd. You're a loser. You're a nerd. And just now, like, D&D just kind of started going downhill after that in terms of the amount of people who were playing it and stuff. Yeah, you had the circuit where people played them in tournaments and halls and tabletop gaming, but by and large, that was a very niche thing. And then Wizard of the Coast bought it from when TSR went belly up or disappeared or whatever, and they've been slowly but surely making it mainstream and more open and getting different people into it. And, you know, they haven't handled it perfectly, but, I mean, that's better than...
I was about to say, considering that four of their five core rule books have been loved, in a sense, or followed, mostly.
Yeah, I mean, they personally, like I said, I don't think they've gone far enough, Wizard of the Coast. I think Tasha's Cauldron of Amazing Things, or whatever it was called, I think that could have...
Cauldron of Everything.
Yeah, that could have been a lot better. I think they need to take it a little bit further, but overall, Wizard of the Coast have been doing a good job. And then to have Ernie say, well, for people who don't like, you know, a more inclusive... Because I don't know about you, one of the things that turned me off to D&D when I was younger was that there were never a lot of girls playing it. And when they did, they would be made very uncomfortable because the dudes playing it would always try and fuck the female characters. Even if they didn't want it. It's like, this is really, like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. D&D was mostly a guys' club.
I mean, it was a sausage fest.
Every which direction.
Yeah, it was a total sausage fest. And I don't know about you, I don't feel comfortable with a whole bunch of dudes and no women. I just don't feel comfortable with that. You know, it's not even an equality thing. I just don't like being with a whole bunch of dudes. I'm like, damn, there's too many sausages in this room. Too many sausages. No buns. But yeah.
Your words, not mine.
So that's one of the reasons that I just started doing my own homebrew campaigns and playing other shit. Now, I will say this much about Pathfinder. Pathfinder has always been way more inclusive than when I have played Pathfinder with groups of people. There were always more women playing Pathfinder than dudes, than in D&D. You still had a majority of dudes, but if there was a group of 8 people playing, at least 3 of them would be women, and I love that shit. What the fuck is this calling me? I'm not answering it. But yeah, I mean that's my own personal opinion. I know some people will disagree with me, but yeah, Ernie Gygax said some stupid shit, and now the Banheimer's come down because his TSR is not being allowed to tour the convention circuit of tabletop gaming, and I don't feel sorry for him. I really don't. Jules really into tabletop gaming. I like I prefer homebrew campaigns, but Jewel, what are your thoughts on this? Yes, no, maybe so.
You open your mouth and insert your foot. Don't be surprised when people react to it in ways that you disagree with it.
Yeah.
And if anything, I try to help with D&D campaigns with mechanics. So if anything, I'm still being the game gal of sorts.
I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. I like D&D. I do, but like I haven't really been all that into D&D since
about 4th edition.
Well, when 3rd edition came, When 4th edition came, I was like, I don't like going back to miniatures because I don't like having to set up all this shit. Like, with like terrain and all that shit. I don't like that. I don't like having to, like, if I want to play a game, a D&D 4th edition, I have to go to someone's house and carry around a whole bunch of, if I'm DMing, I have to carry around I have to set up all this shit in order to play it. And that's ridiculous. Pathfinder to me is much better.
I was going to say that if anything, you, at least with 5e and Pathfinder 2, you have the option of going board or boardless.
Yeah, and personally, I prefer boardless just because I don't like carrying all that shit. Virtual, like, I'm gonna tell you right now, the best thing that ever happened to tabletop gaming is virtual.
The internet.
What?
The internet.
No, virtual tabletops. Virtual tabletops, like. I went to a D&D thing about a month ago, and it was like a 3-hour session on a Saturday in the middle of the day, and we basically, like, they handed out these iPad type things. They were like cheaper iPads, but it was all virtual. So you didn't have to carry all this shit. You didn't have to carry a pen and paper. You could just put the shit down on the pad and did your die rolls, and they went to the DM's master thing so you could see what you were doing. And that was one of the smoothest gameplay experiences I've ever had in a D&D style game. We played Pathfinder, but you could do it. It was virtual tabletop. You could do it with D&D. You could do it with Shadowrun. You could do it. I'm like, this is great. Because who wants to carry all that shit?
Yeah.
Only a D&D purist.
Like I said, no one in their right mind wants to carry all that shit. The only cool thing that I'll say from D&D that I like are the pewter figurines from back in the day. That's about it. Aside from that, I could leave everything else. And I don't need the pewter figurines these days. I'm like, there's other shit I could do.
I was gonna say, you might want to try Hero Forge if you're looking for figures.
Yeah, I'm saying I liked it back in the day because you could paint your pewter figurines you could paint your character to look like how you wanted your character to look, which I thought was really cool back in the day. These days,
actually, you could still do that if you want with the Hero Forge ones, though you could set them for black and white only, and you could paint them yourself if you want.
Yeah, these days I'm kind of like, I don't have the time to do all that shit. When I was a kid, I did. Now I'm like, I'm not doing all that shit.
I know.
I'm a lazy bastard.
There's options for you.
Yes, there are. So with all that being said, I guess we got to the final little bit, which is free topic time. Yay! Free topic time. So we have a couple of free topics. I guess we can get to the good news first. Square Enix has announced for the 30th anniversary of Secret of Mana, aka Seiken Densetsu, they are releasing 2 new Seiken Densetsu games and an anime series for Seiken Densetsu. So,
excuse me. That last one always makes me wonder, are you serious?
Well, an anime series, I'm like, why are you doing it now? I mean, let's keep it real. Secret of Mana already kind of looks like an anime anyway. Like, what took them so long to make an anime about something that really should have had an anime series years ago?
Yeah, and you wonder why I said that.
It's not. I'm not angry about the anime series. I'm angry that they waited so goddamn long to do an anime series, which is kind of sad.
You're releasing that right now after how long?
Well, they're announcing it. It probably won't come out till next year because it takes a while. And one of the games is going to be a mobile game, so no one gives a shit. It's a mobile game.
Oh God! Thank you for reminding me of that other mobile game that's coming out soon, in a sense.
Which segues to the next free topic. Hey guys, guess what? A new Contra's coming out.
It's for mobile.
It's for mobile. It's for Apple and iPhone. It's for Android and iPhone.
And let me guess,
is dead.
and let me guess, it has controller It has controller buttons inserted into the screen.
Yeah, because every game, every platformer that is on a smartphone or iPad that has virtual controls has had spot on controls. Those controls were perfect. I'm being facetious, by the way.
I'm trying to not swear because that is a load of excuse my wording.
Bovine scatology.
Bovine excrement.
Yeah, that's literally what I said. Bovine bull scatology. Shit. It's bovine scatology.
Yeah, you used a different wording.
Same thing.
But it works.
That is a load of bovine scatology, my friends.
Though seriously, if anything, this is the reason why if you ever are playing any mobile games, go with either RPGs or idle games or card games, because if anything, those controls work at least more decently than what Contra is pulling off.
That's true. It's kind of sad, really.
And this is from somebody that is a card player, mind you.
Yeah, it's Contra has just shown that they are just...
It's on its deathbed in a sense.
Well, it shows that Konami just doesn't give a fuck about the franchise. I mean, we know they don't give a fuck about the franchise, because, I mean, the last Contra game they came out with was that Contra game that came out to the Switch, and I think everything else... And get this was a Contra game where you had a timer on how long you could shoot until your weapon overheated. Contra, a game where the sole offensive ability you have is shooting shit, they put a handicap on.
I was gonna say, Contra, the walking bullet curtain game, and you overheat.
Yeah, your gun overheats and you have to wait for it to cool down. I'm like, that's all you do in Contra, is shoot shit.
Yeah, this
is the
reason why people say F Konami.
And you put a fucking handicap on shooting shit in a game where all you do... That's like playing, shit. What's the name of that game? It's on the Neo Geo. Metal Slug. It's like playing a Metal Slug game where you can only shoot so many times and then your weapon overheats. It's like, this is the only offensive ability I have. Why would you do that?
I mean, that's like, yeah, seriously, that's putting your default weapon on a timer. Like, really? There could be 25 bullets coming at you, and you're trying to kill those people that are shooting them at you, and then you overheat, and then you get bullet curtains.
Yeah, it just shows how poorly this series kind of works. But anyway,
oh God,
I don't know what to say. Some breaking news. This came out 31 minutes ago. Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, or the former head of Xbox, basically says that the studio acquisitions that Microsoft did. Now, here's who they acquired over the last few years. Bethesda Softworks and ZeniMax, okay? Like, ZeniMax... See, everyone just looks at Bethesda, but ZeniMax also had, like, Arcane Studios, which made the 2 Dishonored games. They have id Tech, which made the Quake games, and Quake, and what else did they make? Unreal, yeah, Unreal. They bought Mojang, which Minecraft, Double Fine, Ninja Theory, Compulsion, InXile, Obsidian.
It's a lot of thirds.
That's a lot of third party, but now they're first party studios.
Question.
Yeah.
How many games are we going to expect to see them make for first party?
Wait, you said former head of Xbox. Did he retire or something?
No, they moved him out. He's no longer the head of Xbox. There's someone else who's now like Matt Booty. His name is Matt Booty. His name is Matt Booty. It's that duty to please that booty. Anyway, I just said a corny line from the shitty Shaft movie.
I was gonna say, you're gonna enjoy saying his. You're gonna enjoy poking fun at his name for a while.
No, it's too easy. So I try to stay away from it because it's too damn easy. But anyway,
that's what I was saying. That's so easy to poke.
Yeah, it's low hanging fruit, and I like to aim higher than the low hanging fruit. PlayStation Studios chief Herman Hulst recently threw a bit of shade at Microsoft over its free sprinting ways, telling GQ that Sony isn't engaging in an acquisition arms race because we're very selective about the developers we bring in. Let me translate that for you guys. Sony ain't got the money to be buying all this shit that Microsoft can. So they're buying studios they know they can afford to purchase. You know.
I'm trying to not laugh because seriously, Microsoft has one of the biggest bank accounts.
Yeah.
And
they're sitting on $100 billion in cash. They're literally they could buy Nintendo if they really wanted to. If they were able to, they could buy Nintendo. Now Nintendo wouldn't let that shit happen, but if Nintendo said, "Hey, we're putting the vast majority of our stock on the open market," Microsoft could potentially buy and own that company, that studio. That's how much money Microsoft has.
Yeah, Nintendo knows better not to put. Yeah, Nintendo knows not to do anything like that.
In other words, I was just using Nintendo as an example. This isn't a praise suck Nintendo's dick hour. Anyway,
I was saying that if anything, even I know Nintendo's not stupid enough.
Microsoft has a fuck ton of money, okay? And these people spent $7.5 billion to buy ZeniMax, which included all that other shit that ZeniMax owned: Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Publishing, id Tech, Arcane Studios, all that other shit that ZeniMax bought. They bought all that. They got a package deal. So yeah, and that's just what they bought recently. We aren't talking about everyone was like, oh man, they bought Bethesda. I don't really give a fuck that Microsoft bought Bethesda because Bethesda hasn't made
good quality game for some time.
Well, the quality of their games has been going downhill in my humble opinion for years now. So, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. Let's keep it real. I don't think Starfield is going to be that good because Starfield was put into action about shortly after the release of Fallout 4. So, the bad habits of how Bethesda makes their games is ingrained into that studio. And it's going to take a major corporate shakeup for there to be a major overhaul change, a substantive change in how they make their games. And good luck with that. I would love to see it happen, but it probably won't.
That's like trying to play the lotto.
I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say it could never happen. But the only way it's going to happen is that you're going to have to see Todd Howard go away, and for a lot of those people who are Todd Howard's friends to be pushed aside or given a payout and told to get the fuck out, and then new people to come in. There's going to have to be a major cultural shift in how they make their games, and I just don't see that happening anytime soon.
And that's why I said that's as likely as somebody hitting the lotto, which is possible, but
highly unlikely. It's possible,
yeah,
but highly unlikely. It's you could walk out your front door and a bag of money could fall out the sky and land right at your feet. That could possibly happen. It is also highly unlikely. Okay,
exactly.
It could happen. Highly unlikely. But yeah. like I'm more like everyone was excited about the Bethesda acquisition. I was more excited about Obsidian and Double Fine because Obsidian always Obsidian's games always punched above their weight in terms of what they were aiming for. They didn't always succeed, but you were like, if these people had more time and more money, they could have done some amazing shit. Like KOTOR 2, mechanically, like writing-wise, mechanically, is doing so much more than the original Knights of the Old Republic. And they get no credit for it because they had to make that game in under a year to meet a deadline.
Which is impressive, but a little bit worrying.
Well, it's impressive what they were able to do in under a year to meet a deadline. But they don't get credit for it because everyone's like, oh, we have to worship the altar of the original KOTOR. Which is fine, but it's very black and white and overly simplistic. KOTOR 2 has tons of shades of gray and asks some really complex moral questions and shit, making it a better RPG in my opinion. Same thing with Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is so much better than Fallout 3. Fallout New Vegas has a better story, better character development, more nuanced characters. There are, I will say, like, the factions in the game, the primary factions in the game, the good guys, the bad guys, and the chaos ending are both, and the neutral ending are kind of very cut and dry. Like, clearly Caesar's Legion, they're slavers and genocidal maniacs. Yeah, they're clearly evil. Like, there's no, like, you can't, like, well, technically, no, you're evil. You kidnap women and rape them. Like, there's no, you can't.
No way you're hiding that.
You can't massage that into being, well, actually, no. You're clearly evil. But I mean, there's still nuance within those extremes. And yet they don't get praise for it because everyone's worshiping at the altar of Bethesda's Fallout 3, which sucks. That game is terrible. I've played it, I've beaten it, I've done all the DLCs. It's a fucking steaming pile of dog shit. Yes, I said it. So anyway, yeah. I'm hoping that on a personal thing, I'm hoping that Microsoft doesn't fuck up these studios like they did Lionhead, like they did not Encore, the studio that made Age of Empires. I hope they don't fuck up those studios like they did Bungie for a little bit. I hope they don't fuck them up and destroy them, but perhaps not, Here's hoping they don't. But anyway, anything else you guys want to bring up before we wrap things up? Anything you want to pimp out? Anything you're like, hey, we didn't talk about this?
I think we can save it for Saturday.
All right. So with that being said, this is the last podcast for June. Literally for June. This is the last day of June. This is the last podcast to do. Next time you'll see us for the 4th of July podcast bash. That'll be July 3rd. The day after will be the July 4th, Independence Day. Hopefully no aliens will come and demolish our landmarks like they did in the movie Independence Day. Because we ain't got no Will Smith to say, welcome to Earth, and punch an alien out, unfortunately. So with that being said, that's the end of the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and
don't forget to hype responsibly.
All right. Peace.